that we're going to grade on the curve, and they will be tested afterwards, but hopefully it won't be too bad. And a reminder then, we also have a in-person training on July 19th on the donation processing and Fishers, if you're going to the administrators conference. And then on August 4th at the district office in Fort Wayne, we will be having in-person that covers everything. Today's topics on scholarships as well as donations. So with that, I will stop talking and turn it over to Sydney, who will start the training. Thank you.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Rebecca and Rick, as well, for all of the work that you guys have put into setting up this new system. I think it's going to work really well for you guys, and they have set it up in a really thoughtful manner with you in mind throughout the entire process. So I want to just say thank you to you all and introduce myself. My name is Sydney Morell. I work for Foundant Technologies, and I am an implementation specialist here. And we have loved working with your foundation. It has been an interesting process in setting this up for you guys. It's a little bit different from our normal community foundations. And so we are open to any feedback that you guys have as you're going through this process. We want to make this as simple and straightforward for you guys as possible. So definitely share any thoughts or feedback with Rick and Rebecca and John. We want to make this as easy as a process as possible for you all. I am going to share my screen today and walk you through what this process will look like and show you all how to get logged in for the first time and all of that. So I will go ahead and get your site pulled up here. And Rick and Rebecca are going to share this link out to you all. This is the website that you're going to come to apply for the students that you're submitting. And you can go ahead and bookmark this page. It is going to be available through the Lutheran Scholarship Granting Organization website as well. So the way you normally access it, the link will be there as well. But feel free to bookmark this page. This is where you're going to come to log on each time. We do have some additional instructions here for you as well. The organization has set up all of your user accounts for you so that you have the correct permissions and everything is good to go. If you do not have an account, you'll need to reach out to Rick or Rebecca to get that set up. And Rick's email and contact information is in this logon page. So if you're having any issues, definitely reach out to them. The first time you come to log in though, you're going to click on this forgot your password button. When you do that, it'll open this up and prompt you to put your email address in. And this will send you a link to reset your password. Once you click on that link and come back to the site and enter your new password, that'll be the password that you use to log in moving forward. So if you have any issues with that, definitely reach out to them and let them know. But you all should be should have an account created for you. There's no need to create your own. And we are recording this meeting, like John said. So if the steps feel a little bit overwhelming, you can always reference this training back. But once you get logged in for the first time, this will be what your dashboard looks like, minus the sandbox watermark in the background. We are using a test site so that we're not actually manipulating any data in the live site for the organization. So we'll go ahead and walk through the process of what it looks like to set up a user and create their profile and submit an application on their behalf. But this is your dashboard. If you want to come back to this page at any point in time, the home button up in the top will take you to your dashboard page from any page within the website. So the first thing we need to do when we come in is we need to set up the student that you're submitting the application on their behalf for. So you're going to come into the search button here and you're going to click on users. When you do that, we have a couple of different options from this page. We can search for existing users, or we can add a new user. Likely, since you guys are coming into the system for the first time and this is all new, you're mainly going to be using this add new user button. If it's a student that you've already created an application for in the past, so say the next granting cycle when you come in, if you submitted an application in the fall for them and you're ready to submit their spring application, you have the ability to search by the student's first or last name up here or their email address. Always going to be best practice to search for that student and not create a new profile for them when you're coming in to submit another application. So if you ever have questions about it, do a search first before adding a new user. Once you do that and the student does not exist, they don't come up anymore, you can come up here and click Add New User. So today I'm going to apply for an application on behalf of Sydney Morell. So I'm going to enter in all of Sydney's contact information. You'll need to have their first and last name. You'll also need their email address. And you'll need to create a dummy password for them. So this can be anything that you want. But the first time you do create that user, you will have to set up a password for them. Then you're going to add in their address information. So you'll put in their street address as well as their city and state and zip code. There are some there we go. There are some requirements on how this information needs to be put in. So there you could see I did big T, little x. It actually needs to be capital T, capital X there. Yes, you will need to put in the student's email address. They won't be contacted at any point through the process, but the email address is how we set them up and how they're identified in the system as a user.
Sydney, quick question.
Mhm.
We don't have, I mean, typically they don't have student email addresses. I think we may have parent addresses. If
You
there's
can use
no
that.
parent, I would suggest the parent address. And if there's no parent address, is there any issue with them using just their own address? Since that's not used anywhere, emails I never sent.
I would say we would need to come up with some kind of like at example.com or something like that. You won't be able to use your school administrator email
Right.
address
That's
because they have an account in the system. So if there was no email address available, we would need to come up with some kind of
Just a
fake
dummy
email
password.
address or something like
Yeah.
that. Yep.
Yeah, good question. Can you use the parent address for more than once?
Nope. Each user has to have their own individual email address.
Okay. So we might come up with just a standard, maybe first initial, last name at example.
Yep, you could do that.
Just because it's a required field, we got to do it, but it won't be used for anything.
Yeah, so it's one email address per user in the system. And then once you come in and set up the student profile, you are going to come down to the bottom and you are going to select them as a student in the system. Once you do that, you'll come up here and you'll save the profile. Oops, and I forgot telephone number. And we'll save that. Just kidding. There's your notification that the email address is already being used. So it will tell you there. Perfect. Let's try this again. There we go. So now that user is created in the system. So Sydney has her profile. I'm ready to go ahead and submit her application. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up her profile here. And you may come across students that have the same names. So make sure that you're looking for the correct email address associated with the account that you set up here. Once you do that, you're going to click on that student's last name. You'll see all of the contact information that you put in for that student. And we're going to come over to the request history tab. We can see that Sydney has no applications associated with her currently. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to create an application for her. This is going to be a really important step and something that I kind of want to point out to you that will be different from kind of the terms that we've used previously in your organization. We call an application a process. So when we say select the process, you're going to have a drop down here of all of the different schools' applications. So you're going to want to make sure that you come in and you select your appropriate school and the application that you want to submit. So in this example, I'm going to work for Lakewood Park and I'm going to submit the application for them. So once you select your school here, you're going to click continue. A couple of things to note here. This is your application that you're filling out. Once you start an application, it will live in application draft until you mark it complete. So there's a reminder here, after you've filled out the application, you'll need to mark it complete. So once we fill this out, we'll scroll down to the bottom and mark it complete. That will submit it to the Lutheran organization. In the meantime, if you want to start an application, save your work, come back to it, you need additional information, something like that, you can always click Save Application, and that will take you back to your dashboard as well. There are some uploads that are required throughout this process, but everything as you go through, if you fill out part of the information, these questions are saved automatically as you're going through. So there's no need to continue to go down to the bottom and click Save Application. Once you enter in the information, it will save for you. The Save Application button at the bottom is just for you to kind of exit out of this screen and save it in a hole. So you will see some additional information here in case you get lost in the site, and it will tell you to mark your application complete. You can click the home button to return to your dashboard at any point in time. So just things to keep in mind there. So we're going to go through and we're going to start filling out this application. The organization has put some due date reminders at the top for you, as well as contact information in case you have questions as you're going through this and want to reach out to them. So the first thing that you're going to complete is your school name. Because we selected a specific school application in the dropdown, your school will automatically pull up here. If it does not automatically pull up here and you see a school that you're not associated with, it means that you clicked the wrong school in the dropdown initially. So you would need to go back and look for your school specifically. Otherwise, your school should populate here and you can go ahead and select it. Then you're just going to complete the application like you normally would with the information that the organization collects on a regular basis. You'll put the student's birth date in. You'll select their grade. You're going to be asked, has the student received an SGO tax credit scholarship in the past, yes or no? And you'll be asked if they're currently receiving a choice scholarship voucher. Based on the answers to some of these questions, you may get pop-ups that say the student's not eligible for one reason or another. And you'll see those here in just a second based on income requirements. For the income verification, you'll put your family size. Data from previous years will not be automatically loaded into the application, so you will have to enter in this information new. You'll enter in the household income, And we'll take a look at this. Right now, we just see we have to upload income, our eligibility confirmation, and then there is an SGO administrator section. Based on the family income for the Lakewood school, if I came in and I put that my income was 160,000 for a family of 4, and I scroll back down, I'll see this ineligibility flag. This means that the income requirement and number in household don't calculate correctly, and the student is not eligible. You would need to check these numbers again just to verify to make sure that the student would be eligible in that case. If I come in here and I change my household income to 140,000 and I scroll back down, that ineligibility flag goes away. So you can continue on with the application. We'll say that we're requesting $3,000. The tuition rates have been populated in here for each school specifically. So that's part of the reason why it's really important to look for your school specific application, because the income requirements as well as the tuition rates have been calculated for you. If you see any issue with these or have a problem, definitely reach out to Rick or Rebecca to address those issues.
The Culver's lunch Holly will come out of EC
Oh, wait.
on the last day of school, like how,
Oh, I don't think that's a question for us. We'll go ahead and view her. Perfect. So you'll complete this application. You'll add any additional file uploads that you might need to the application, so supporting documentation as far as the family income goes. And then you'll confirm these eligibilities. So you'll confirm that there's no instructions that appear in red and they meet household size and income eligibility requirements. And you'll also have a confirmation of distributement here. So basically, I think in the past, you all have been able to submit and request a specific date of distribution. The organization has streamlined this process. So when you submit your application, it will be ready for distribution. And Rick and Rebecca, if you have anything to add there about the changes.
Well, this is a real positive change where you don't have to go back in to request a distribution, for it. So it does it here right now. And I'm sure you're going to talk about it, Sydney, where, depending upon whether they're ready to get the distribution or not, will depend upon which button they push at the bottom. So
Yeah, yep. So if there are income changes from the 1040, if the income is denied, you'll get that red flag pop up there. If something changes and they're no longer eligible or something like that, definitely reach out to Rick and Rebecca about that. But if it's something that you're submitting within the application and they're not eligible, you would get that red flag pop up. And then if I was not ready to submit this for distribution yet, I could come down and I could save this application. When I do that, it'll tell me what I have left to finish completing on the application. If I were to come back to my homepage, I can see I now have 3 applications in draft that I've started. If I click in here, I can see Sydney Morell's application. So you guys can keep these in draft for as long as you need. You can access them at any point. You can come back to the application by clicking on the project name here. And you'll see the application available here. You can look at a PDF by clicking this button here, or you can actually hop back in and continue to edit the application. So say I am ready for that distribution, I can come in and I can confirm that. And then these last 2 questions down here are for SGO administrators only. So we did make a big red note here that it's to be completed by SGO only. So nothing on here you will need to fill out. The last thing is the confirmation of disbursement. Once you do that, you can come in and click application complete. Once you do that, it'll show you the application again. You will see that you don't have the ability to edit these questions anymore. So that would be where something, if the income changed for some reason, or you needed to upload new income documentation or something like that, you would need to reach out to Rick and Rebecca. They would be able to send that application back to you and allow you to edit it again. From here, if I come back to my home page, I can see that my drafts now have gone down to 2 and my complete has gone up to 3. So if I click into my complete bucket, I do see Sydney's application here and the date that I submitted it. You do have the ability to look at a PDF of the application by looking at that. And as always, you can click into the project name or to this icon here and take a look at the actual full application. Something to note as Rick goes through and completes the due diligence checks for SGO, this application will move through the process. So it will move from application complete over here to approved and all open approvals. So at that point, you can kind of have information that this application has been approved, there's no issues with it, and it is awaiting payment. If you do click in to a specific project name here, so we'll take a look at Sydney's application. As it moves through the process, you'll see information populate on this award details tab. So you will see the payment information that's put in there. You will also see an installment due date, so an estimated date that they will pay the scholarship. So you will be able to track that information. Any questions on any of this?
I guess I do have a question.
Mhm.
Just, I keep on thinking about you mentioning needing an email for each individual student. So I happen to be a freestanding preschool, and we have a kindergarten that we award SGOs to. If my students move on to a different school because they're going into elementary and stuff like that, do I need to be mindful of the next school and the email address that I've assigned to that particular student? Because if it populates with that student and it has all their information, am I stopping the process for somebody else or making them go back and reapply for that particular student?
Sure. Definitely something to keep in mind and something that I can talk through with the foundation about kind of best practices there. But definitely for you all, when you are coming into the user page, you're definitely going to want to check first and last name here to see if an account already exists for that specific student. When you do a search for a student, you can click into their profile and you will be able to see information on address, phone number, that kind of thing. So that would be a way to kind of compare, is this the right student that I'm looking at, assuming they haven't moved or anything like that. But we can definitely talk about best ways to handle that email address situation.
Great, thank you.
Good question. Any other questions?
What about the phone number?
The phone number is required in order to complete the student registration form. Is that something that you all don't typically have, or?
Right, the students do not have phone numbers unless we're using their home phone.
Yeah, I would suggest probably using the home phone as that, and we can put more instructions around changing it to from telephone number to home phone number if that's easier for you all. But we would need some kind of telephone number there.
Okay, and then on the email also, our kids have like Google addresses. Would those be allowed?
Like a Gmail.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. You could put in any email address there.
Okay, thank you.
I have a quick question. On if we have parents who have multiple children getting SGOs, like we had a set of twins, do each twin, like if we use the parent email address, we can only use it for one, correct?
Mhm.
Okay. And then my next question is, on the last screen, we used to be, and you may be covering this in a minute, I'm not sure, but on like the dashboard,
Mhm.
we would be able to see how much our disbursements were and then how much we still had in our account available.
So I think that might
Here.
come. I think that might come through a different system now. The organization's also in the midst of implementing our new accounting software and donation software.
Okay.
So that is probably likely something that's going to come from there. Once they get that set up. In here, you will be able to see individual students' disbursements and how much they're going to receive under the
Yeah.
award details tab, but it won't be the total number in this system.
Okay, well, maybe that's a question for Rick. Will we still be able to use the old website to see what how much of our available funds are?
No, that's going to be gone actually tomorrow. So that's like Sydney said, that's all going to be moved into C-Suite, which is kind of the other side.
Okay. And we'll get our logon information from you?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, you will still be able to see all that information. It's just not going to be through the same Go SGO website that you're used to doing. It'll be this software that Sydney is explaining is the SLM, which is the scholarship piece. What you're looking for will be in that C-Suite piece. But so yes, you'll have a login for that, and it's also you'll get to that link through that same web page on the SGO website that I shared earlier in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And I know we had a couple questions in the chat that I want to make sure we address. Whitney was asking, will information for students who have received SGO scholarships in years prior now be accessible on the new site? So within here, we are not bringing students in from the old site. So likely this first round, you're going to be creating a lot of student profiles. I think in the past, the organization has tracked it on a school basis. And now we are tracking it on a student basis. So this will allow us to be able to see how many scholarships Sydney has received in the past, whereas before it was more like Lakewood Park and how much money did we disperse to them in scholarships. So this will allow us to track this on a student basis, which was part of the reason for the switch. So this first round, you are going to be creating a lot of those student profiles with the email address and phone number. But once we get those set up, likely that number will decrease over time as the students are in the system. And then we did have a question from Bethany. Will we be able to see if a student has received a Lutheran SGO from any school, not just ours? So yes, when you come in on your dashboard, you're only going to see your applications in progress. But if I were to come in to the applicant profile here, so if I clicked on Sydney's profile and I looked at this request history tab, I would see any other request that has also been submitted for Sydney. So if Sydney had attended a different school last year, that application would be in here, as well as the new one that I just submitted. And you would be able to see the application status and how much money was granted for that student. if you don't need to create a application for a student, you won't need to pull in old student data. So you only need to enter in a student profile when you're going to create a request for them. And so a child coming from another school who got an SGO search for them before making a profile. So that's why it's going to be really important to go to the search users page. And you can search by first and last name, or you can just do an open search by students. Keep in mind, it will bring up every student's profile in here if you just do an open search. So a lot easier if you narrow it down by first and last name. But definitely always search for that student profile. If you're not sure if it was a student in a previous school and they've transitioned to yours and maybe their email address doesn't line up or something, feel free to reach out to SGO and they can take a look too and see if that is the correct student or not. Really good questions. Any other ones that come to mind? No?
Sydney, I'm
Uh-huh.
sorry. Go ahead, Nathaniel. Can you demonstrate real quick again how you go from completing an application to starting a new one? Just that
Yeah.
step.
Absolutely.
I missed it.
So when you complete the application, always easiest to come back to your home page here with your dashboard. If you are needing to start a new application for a student that doesn't exist or you don't know if they exist, we would come to this search tab, click on users. We would search for that specific student here and pull up their profiles. If they do exist and say we want to submit an application for Margaret, I would click on Margaret's last name here, and I would come to the request history tab. I would see any applications that have been submitted previously by my school or another school. If there was one already in here that I had started that I needed to finish, I could come in here, click on the project name and finish the application. If the application isn't in here, it doesn't exist yet, I would come down here and click create request. This is where I would select my school specifically to start the application, and I would click continue. From here, this is where it starts that application. So I now, if I go back, will have an application in draft for Margaret. And then I would make sure that I've selected the right school by making sure my school name appears here and complete the application. Once everything is filled out, then I would click this application complete button. You do have the ability to pull PDFs of just the questions if you wanted. You can pull it of the application packet. So of the questions that you've answered, you have the ability to pull a PDF of that at any point in time as well. So you can always do that from the request tab or from the actual application tab itself. You erase an application if you chose the incorrect school. So likely, let's see. You don't have an abandon application option here. It would live in your draft request if you chose the wrong school, but you could come back to this Margaret Anderson, and we could come back into her request history tab and we could create a new request if we needed to. And then you could always reach out to the foundation and let them know that you selected the wrong school and please abandon this request. And likely the foundation will do some cleanup throughout the year as well on any of these draft applications that were not submitted. Good question.
Hey, Rick, why people are maybe formulating some more questions. Rick, do you want to remind everyone when the due dates are for applications to get
Yes.
distributions in? Okay.
Yeah, we did change the verbiage a little bit in the live site, so just as a reminder, you know, the disbursement months, again, are September, October, November, December, and then February, March, April. So you need to have applications in and submitted by the 15th of the month prior to the disbursement. So in other words, if you wanted an October disbursement, that application would need to be in, you know, basically submitted, not necessarily approved yet, but submitted by the 15th of September. So no really change there. But again, just reminders. That gives us, you know, the time to go through the applications, review them, get them approved, and then go through the steps we do to get the distribution going.
And Rick and Rebecca have spent a ton of time creating individual school applications for everyone with your tuition requirements, as well as that school name populated for you. If for some reason you do not see your school listed on the first drop down or the second drop down for some reason, definitely reach out to them. We want to make sure that you're getting the right school specific application.
And just another reminder, just to be careful that when you're filling it out, if you know you're ready to have it on the next disbursement, you know, then make sure you hit application complete. But if you're not sure you want it to go out yet, just hit the save button.
When
we
you
probably
go,
don't. What's that?
no,
Well, we probably
go ahead,
don't
Rick.
need to remind you to stay away from the SGO administrator only, because, you know, you're going to want to fill out as little as possible, right?
And they're bright red and bold. So we
I-
tried to
I
make
would
it
just-
obvious.
Yes, I was just going to remind everyone that we have probably 6 St. John schools and 5 St. Peter's and 6 St. Paul's. So we will always have your school name listed as, for example, St. Paul, Fort Wayne, St. Paul, you know, St. Peter's, North Judson. So it should be easy to find your school, but don't just go to the first St. John's just in case.
If an application was denied, is there an opportunity to reapply?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, yeah, just reapply with whatever the reason for the denial would basically be, you know, that the household size doesn't, and, you know, income eligibility don't work. But we've got to set it up with safeguards that, you know, when we get it on our end, I mean, it's basically ready to go. And you're going to have triggers and warnings up front, you know, that'll help the process go smoother, I think.
Awesome. Anything else?
I just have a couple notes to reiterate. You've already said, but just to emphasize again, Sydney, you've set all of the staff that we gave you up in the system right now. So everybody on the call should be able to go in and type in their own school email or whatever email they use for business and do the forgot your password. So that should be easy for everybody on the call because we have not given anybody else a separate, their own password. They need to set that up. And then I think maybe Rick and John and I need to talk quickly about the email address and the password. If we can just go ahead and maybe standardize that for everybody, since again, it's not going to be used again. It could be used for identification purposes. That might be helpful when we see the list of the students. So we we'll probably send out an email very shortly on how that could be standardized, just to make it simple. So nobody's trying to make one up on the fly or wondering whether they should do with students or the parents or whatnot. So we'll take care of that.
And Peter had a question for new principals. When will they get passwords and logons? Peter, I would suggest reaching out. If the forgot your password doesn't work for your email address, definitely reach out to Rick or Rebecca, and they'll get you set up as a user in the system.
Yeah, Peter, it looks like you are set up as a user now, so
Perfect.
it'll just be a matter of hitting the forgot password and setting up a, you know, your own new personal password.
Yes, the date of birth is a question on the application. Are there reports a school can download? Yes, likely. We haven't gotten to reports or where that will come from yet, but you will probably be able to do some reporting as well. And are there any other pieces of information, address or phone number that will not be not allowed to be reused? Email address is the biggest one that you can't reuse, just because that's how we identify the users in the system, is by their email address. Address, phone number, you could reuse those if there were more than one student in a household or something like that. It doesn't check that. No automatic emails will go out to students. So using their email address will not trigger an email to them. Anything else? These are all really great questions. This is being recorded, so you guys can reference this back to as you are going through the process of submitting these applications.
And I'm sure once you log off, you'll have 3 more questions. Feel free to reach out to Rick. And again, it's rick@lutheransgo.org or scholarships@lutheransgo.org. We'll go to Rick as well. So feel free, because we know it's going to be a lot of questions the first time you go through this. We're here to help walk you through it. And we also know that it is the end of June, and you're probably not going to be entering applications until for another couple months. You may forget some of this. So again, the video will be available. This training video will be available on YouTube, so you can watch it again to see how you do that. But please, reach out to us. We will certainly be ready and willing to help you get you on board, so you guys can get these applications submitted and ready to go.
And we do know that this is your first time through using this new system, so don't be afraid to share feedback with us. We want to make this an easy process for you all, and we can continue to iterate and improve on this each application cycle. So definitely share your feedback with us as it comes up.
Okay, well, if there are no other questions, if everybody's answers in the chat were taken care of, then we will let you leave a few minutes early instead of holding you for another 15 minutes. But again, thank you all for taking the time today to be involved in this Zoom. And we want to thank again those who helped us when we were going through and deciding if we were going to be switching to this new system. Some of you on this call helped us test a few of them, so we appreciate that as well, to make sure that we had tried to address as many questions as we could up front. So, okay. I see there's a few more questions just popped up in chat.
An STN number instead of an email address is a unique identifier. I'm not sure what the STN number is, but that's definitely something we could add to the user registration page, so that if that would help you guys identify students, that's something we could definitely look at adding. But the email address would still have to be the user name for the student.
All right,
Is-
well,
Is
go
the
ahead.
STN a student number? Is that?
An STN is student number unique to each student given by the state. And I think their rules say that we cannot list the child's name with the STN. It has to be either the child's name or the STN.
Gotcha.
Okay. Thanks for clarifying that, Carol.
Yeah. Thanks, Carol.
No worries.
That's the power of us having 54 schools on our family of SGO schools. We can help each other like that, answer those questions. But yeah, like Sydney was saying, this is our first foray into this new system. If you guys have suggestions, say, hey, could we do this? Could we do that? Please share them with us, because you guys are the frontline users, and we want to make sure this is as user friendly as possible. Like Rick was saying, we were able to eliminate you having to go back in to request the funds. So hopefully we took that step away, and we want to make sure, again, that it's as easy, but as simple and straightforward as we can. So with that, we will go ahead and let you guys go at 1:48 here. And again, thank you for your time, and we look forward to seeing lots of applications again in the 22-23 school year.